Welcome to another episode of the Amid the Mess podcast, where we learn how to be a little bit less perfectionist about things in life so that we can do the stuff, regardless of how crazy and messy life is. So, today I'm talking to Lucy Williams, who is a photographer, and she loves taking pictures of people. She is hugely experienced. She's been a photographer for ages and ages, but she has now got into taking pictures of people for dating. She loves online dating apps. In fact, she met her husband online and she is a big proponent of them and helps other people to come across in the best way possible. So I talked to her all about the best techniques to use for your profile pictures, for your bio, and for generally to go about online dating. This I thought was really interesting. I know quite a few people who are in a position where they are online dating, and it can be really disheartening, tiring. You can become disillusioned. So this is for the people who would love to find love and would like to try online dating. If that's not you, then perhaps forward this episode to a friend of yours who needs to hear it. And listen to it anyway, because you might just learn something about relationships. So, without further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode. In this world of online dating, so many of us do it. I have so many friends who do it. I have family who do it. And not just in your 20s, also in your late 30s, 40s, when, maybe a relationship is broken up or whatever, and you go back into the market. But why is it so difficult for people to find a long-term partner on online dating apps? What's your take on this?
Well, controversy. I think it doesn't have to be.
Oh, okay.
No, everybody's got a story, right, about how difficult it is and how relentless it is. And I know people, and I was the same, that I'd come off online dating and go back on and be like, oh, yeah, this is so annoying. But I believe, from like my own belief, but also from having worked with hundreds of people now, that if you get your photos right and you get your profile right, actually it can be quite a quick process and not half as frustrating as it can be.
Yes. So that is this is a solution that we're going to talk about in a bit. But I'd love to unpick a little bit of why it can be difficult. Like, what are the things that people could struggle with? Because I'm lucky enough, actually, my relationship started quite a long time ago. I never went on it, but
in the old days.
The old days. But I've heard from family and from lots of friends that they can accidentally meet lots of people who have a fear of commitment, or they're just serial daters that like to, get straight to the fun bit, but not go for a proper relationship. So, yeah. Have you got any thoughts on why it is more difficult that way?
So what I think is quite interesting is that dating apps are a place where there are loads of single people, and you're single and you do it very in an insular way by yourself on your little black box. Your phone, and it's just you and your phone, and then hundreds of people who are potential dates, apparently. And some of those people, like in real life, if you went into a huge, let's say back in the day, I used to meet people maybe in a pub or something like that, but then I never wanted to date all the people in the pub, and not all the people in the pub would have been nice people to be around. Some of them would have been commitment phobes. Some of them would be waste of time, and I think online dating is exactly the same. It just feels more intense because when you go into a pub, obviously there's some people who are single, there are people who are not, blah, blah, blah. Whereas when you're on your phone, you've got all these people at your fingertips, and then it just seems like when you're dating them, I've had my fair share of really, really terrible dates. I wish I'd started a blog at the time. But so I think it can just feel more intense. You're doing it by yourself and it just feels a bit relentless. So I think that's why it can feel very difficult for people.
Yes. Okay. Interesting. And so one of your fortes is taking pictures of people. Can you give some advice? Like, how does someone take the best profile picture of themselves, yet the best, but also the most effective? So, the two might be a little different. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, for me, I'm all over the connection side of stuff, because what I think, especially as people get older, is people are looking at pictures thinking, what is this person going to be nice to hang out with? Are they going to be fun? Do I want to date them? Like, it's not necessarily about being handsome or beautiful or any of those things. So I think, like, technically, to take a picture, if you're doing it by yourself, make sure you've got good light. Make sure the phone is far, if you're doing it on your phone camera, is far enough away from you that you're not doing that whole, like, weird selfie end of the arm kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah. You can tell when people try to take an angle where they don't have that double chin, don't you? They do it from really high up.
Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, it's really difficult to take your own picture, but what I would do is set up my phone on a tripod, and often I haven't got my tripod here, but often with a phone tripod, you get a little timer, so you can have that in your hand, and then you can step away. So you're taking more of a mid-length shot. It's not your traditional selfie, and doing that in good light, and then trying to recreate a very natural feel, because we all know that you can pose for your selfie and you'll be a bit like, so it's kind of trying to create, I always encourage people, if they were going to do it, to do a little like fake laugh or something. So instead of doing a forced smile that you're trying to get right, you just kind of, this is going to sound a bit bad, but you're like, and you do a little laugh, and you hopefully capture something more natural, because that's the thing on online dating. It has to look natural. It has to look like, that connection, making sure that connection is there.
So what about the psychology behind the picture? I think I read on your website a little bit about the psychology of I don't know, how you stand or how you look. Like, do you think about that when you take pictures of your clients?
Yeah, totally. I'm totally fascinated in people's psychology and psychology around dating. But I think when people come to me, because I'm a professional photographer, often people are worried about having photos that look too professional. So what I'm always trying to do is help someone relax, help someone feel at ease on the camera, and just have a bit of fun. I don't know about you, but a lot of people will say to me, oh, I had these pictures once. I was at an event. I didn't even know the photographer was there. And so I'm trying to create that kind of feeling with them too, that although they know I'm there and it's a little bit, we're one-to-one, I'm trying to get them to laugh or to smile or to do very natural things that I then capture. And I think the more psychologically, the more natural and the more at ease you feel, the more yourself you're being, and that comes across in your pictures. So I think that a lot of people worry that people aren't who they say they are online. So if you are bringing authenticity to your pictures, that is like a massive selling point, because I think the more people believe you're real, that's really important.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I've heard some horror stories about people going on dates and the picture is just completely different. Completely different.
You know what? I was going to say, I met my husband on Tinder, and the first thing we both said to each other was like, oh, you look like your picture. So, already that's a winning situation, right?
Yes. You're like, yes. Okay. A for honesty.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was actually just going to ask you about your background and why you're interested in this topic. So you just mentioned you met your husband on Tinder, did you say?
On Tinder, yeah.
So could
About
you go
8 years ago.
your background, the whole story?
Yeah, well, I was online dating for a really long time, on and off. I mean, even in the days before online dating, where you had to ring in to like Guardian Soulmates and stuff, I sort of dabbled with that even. And I did meet people, but it never really lasted very long. I met some really lovely people, but they weren't 100% aligned, and I wasn't 100% aligned with them. And I got to a point when I was really fed up with online dating, and I was thinking I need a way to meet people in real life. at the same time, Tinder had come, was like the biggest online dating app. And I kept swiping through men's pictures and thinking, what the hell? Like, why is he holding a huge fish? Oh my God, why is he up a mountain? I can't even see him. And at the time, there was a lot of stroking tigers. I don't know what that was about. And obviously the usual, like somebody in the bathroom selfie and, bare chested or whatever. And I kept thinking, these men are probably really nice. It's just their photos massively let them down. And
yes,
I don't know what it was. One day I just thought, you know what? Like a photographer, I could take better pictures of them. And I'm sure it would do them favours and it would help women find them. And then I was like, oh, yeah, maybe I'll just put it out there and see. And so that's kind of how it started, in a sort of, I'm sure I can help people meet each other. It doesn't have to be this difficult. And I just got to banish these terrible, terrible pictures. Although, as I said, I wish I'd written a blog about it, because really there was some
that would have been
amazing things you come across.
A very funny blog. The thought kind of, it rings a bell. So I never used Tinder myself, but I was a spectator when my sister was using it, and she's like, okay, these kind of people, I say no.
Yeah.
Oh, this person is a yes. Oh, no. And I did think in my head, yes, these guys' pictures are awful, but like, they could actually be gems. They could be really good guys. Just because they thought it was a really good idea to take that kind of picture. So you're on a winner. But so what about the description, the bio? You do a bit of work for people on their dating profiles as well. And it's difficult to write something about yourself, I think, but it is also so important for it to be authentic. How do you approach that?
Yeah, I started doing it because people would ask me to check their profiles, my clients, and then I was like, this is really interesting, because it is really super hard. Anyone who's written a bio for anything, LinkedIn, whatever, it's hard, right?
Yes.
But I think so. Sorry, I was getting lost in 100 ideas then about
That's okay.
To say.
Got so much to say.
I think that if people think about who they're trying to meet, who their ideal person is, and then writing something that's in line with that. So not lying about anything, by the way, but just, we've all got many different aspects to ourselves that we could tell someone. So it's choosing the bits, because nowadays a lot of dating apps like Hinge or Bumble or Tinder, you can only write a very small amount. You can't write paragraphs. So you have to sum up in a very small amount your personality and who you're looking for. And I think if you can hone it around your values, the values of the person that you're looking for, and then give a little bit of stuff away that is, give as much away as you've got room for, but sort of describes your life in a way that leaves room for someone to fit into. So,
yes,
you could be like a 50-year-old person who has got all their stuff together, does loads of things, but a lot of the things you're doing are quite insular, like individual things that maybe somebody else can't join in with. So try to think of the things that you do that would also appeal to someone else. Like if you love to cook, describe about how you would cook for someone, or what's, maybe ask some questions of the potential date, what's your favorite food? I'd love to cook it for you, that kind of stuff. Or country walks is always, a lot of my clients love to go on long walks. So I always say to them, describe where, because I like to go on long walks, but maybe my long walks are, I don't know, up the road, into town, out for coffee, and your long walk might be rambling over the Himalayas. I don't know. So try to give a little bit more away about the things that you love doing, that make you unique and invite somebody into your life.
Yeah, kind of saying, for example, my sister is into rock climbing, and she's also would love to find a partner who does rock climbing. So kind of saying, looking for someone who would like to join me on these kind of things.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so you don't just describe yourself, you kind of leave a space saying, I want, okay.
Yeah, I think it's because most people on online dating are looking for how somebody can fit into their life, not how you can fit into somebody else's life, if you know what I mean. So I have to think, oh, that man who loves cycling, the gym 10 times a week, and I don't know, jigsaws. Actually, I don't like any of those things. Whereas that man might go to the gym 10 times a week because he hasn't got anything, he's looking for somebody to do stuff with. But he could say he likes wellness and fitness and would like to meet someone similar. And then that gives me an opening because I also like wellness and fitness.
Yes, and you don't just think, oh, well, he's going to be on his bike by himself 5 times a week, and actually there's no space for me in his life.
Yeah, exactly. And then, and when you meet someone, you don't necessarily want to do everything with them anyway. You just want to know that your values and the way that you spend time is quite aligned.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, interesting. And what about stating really obviously, like, what you want? Like, do you state looking for someone to have children with, or I do not want children? That kind of thing. Do you go there? Do people leave that open? Is that something they explicitly say?
I think people should be brave and they should ask for what they want, because I think, you can come across people that don't put stuff because they're afraid of putting people off. But the thing about that is, if you think that thing is going to put them off, then it may well put them off in 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. So you may as well say it. And in fact, even if you're honing down who you're looking for, it's better to meet 3 people who want the same as you than to meet 300 people who don't really want the same as you.
And most of them are time wasters, because in 2 months' time, you realise they want something very different.
Yeah, yes. But, they're not even time wasters. You never asked for it in the first place. So suddenly you realise that you haven't got the same life path at the moment. So it's not really, you could consider, it might be that you are also a time waster because you never mentioned that actually you wanted to have children and that person isn't ready to have them yet. So I think you have to be quite clear. And also I was terrible at keeping boundaries when I was dating a lot of the time. So I think I don't want to date a smoker. I know it will really annoy me, but then I'd meet a smoker and I think, oh, it'd be all right. I don't mind it. And then 3 months down the line, it's driving me mad. And then suddenly I think we're arguing all the time. So it's better to, even however much you like that person, if you haven't got the same goals and outlooks and values at that point, you're not probably going to have them in 3 months or 6 months. You can't wait around for it.
Absolutely. So right from the beginning, it's better to be brave. Even if you put off 90%, you keep the 10% who actually have the same values.
Yeah, I think as well, really think about what your what your must-haves must be, because you can say, well, I don't want someone with black hair, and I don't want someone who's 7'8", and I don't want. So, I think keeping it realistic. So, absolute fundamental things that you can't make someone change, like you want children, they don't, or I can't think of, like, smoking's a good one, because I really didn't want to go out with someone who smokes. So that was a massive deal breaker for me. So I think being realistic about your absolute must-haves that are life-changing fundamental things is really important.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. It's interesting. And that's if I were to do online dating, I think I would try to be brave and be very blunt about, like, looking for this, not anything else. But another question, so kind of, it's a bit related, but going in the other direction. What would you say to the people with a perfectionist tendency? That they might be like, actually, it's got to be perfect or nothing kind of thing. What would you say to them?
Well, I am one, so I know that feeling. But I think, again, is choosing your, I don't know, let's say pin it down to your 3 must-haves and your 3 mustn't-haves. And I think on a lot of dating apps, they're called green flags and red flags. And trying to minimize that. Like, you are probably not going to meet someone 100% perfect, but if as long as you're aligned in values, and when you meet them, there are some things that actually, if you're looking for perfection, you will never find it. And it might actually just be a block that you have for yourself. You might have that in place to protect you from what is out there. Whereas, so for example, when I met my husband, I absolutely hated football and didn't want to find someone who was a really big football fan. It turns out he is a really big football fan, and I didn't really realise it. But, you know, we've had to make compromises. He loves it. He doesn't expect me to get involved in it. But it might have been a deal breaker if it was written in his profile.
Interesting.
Yeah, when in fact, in real life, there are so many other things that are important. He's kind. He looks after me. We do great things together. We're a great team. You know, so many things that are actually really good. So it's not really a deal breaker. So I think if you can, just give people a chance and have your deal breakers that are absolute must nots, but really try and limit them, because you need to give someone a chance, and they need to give you a chance. Like, you're not perfect either, right? I mean, although I am.
Obviously. No, well, to be honest, that's what this podcast is all about. It's about like doing things amid the mess of life and recognizing that nothing is perfect. You know, if you wait for the perfect situation to do something, you're never going to do it. And at the same time, if you wait for the perfect person to come along, you're probably never going to go out with someone. So because no one's perfect. Even if you look at you know, really long lasting relationships, eventually, you know, if you talk to them very intimately, you will say they both recognize imperfections in each other. But you learn to support each other in different ways and to balance out those imperfections. And I think that could be a big block if you think, actually, if someone's not perfect on the first instance, I'm not interested.
I mean, I think, you know, that if you go on a first date, I mean, hopefully, if you've got your photos right and your profile right, and you've had a quick chat, by the time you've gone on a first date, you know that you're probably going to get on with that person for that time. So hopefully you're aligned from the beginning before you even go on a date. But also, it takes time to get to know someone. If you were going for a job, you probably have a trial period. You don't just go, okay, great, I'll take this job and I'll do it for the next 50 years. Thanks. That is, you know, it's the same with dating. It's a life decision a lot of the time. If you want to find long-term love, it's a life decision. So to sort of think from first date that you need to know that that's the one is ridiculous. You've got to have at least 2 or 3 dates. So I kind of think, what I advise my clients, go on one date. If you like them enough to see them again. And by 3 dates, you'll really know if you want to see them for more or if you don't.
Yes,
you know, and sometimes you go on one date and you think, I don't want to see them again. But you have to look, if that keeps happening, you have to look if that's coming from you. Because why do you keep choosing those people then? Or, you know, it's probably not them. It might be a block you have in place to keep you safe.
Yes. Okay, interesting. And what about men and women? Do they approach it differently in your experience? Because do you coach both men and women?
Yeah. Okay. What do you mean? Do they approach dating, or do they approach?
Their presence online. Like, because maybe people might have an intuition of, I want to look like this in my picture and I want this to say in my profile. They might have different tendencies. Do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, I think some things that come up that are interesting are that men are often, I mean, this is very generalized, by the way, but men, especially older men, are worried. They don't really like pictures where someone's wearing a lot of makeup, for example, because I think that they feel like they don't know the real person. It's almost like a bit of a mask. That's not to say natural makeup, but lots of them tell me that they see a lot of women with a lot of makeup on and it puts them off.
Really interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. Like, when people come to me for a shoot, I say, you don't have to look dressed up for the night out. Just be very natural, because that can really help your photos be more successful. I think men often, I think men and women think differently about dating. I think that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure they
yeah,
do.
yeah, and I mean, again, really generalised, but I think a lot of men think much more physically than women do. And so they might be worried about how they come across physically, whereas in fact, a lot of women are maybe looking at values, sort of how the person speaks. So they might be like, yeah, he looks nice enough, but what are his values? What is he up to in life? What is he busy? A lot of women, especially older women, are worried that they're going to meet a man who's not very active or engaged in the world, because a lot of the older women are still very busy with loads of, they're up to stuff, you know.
Yes,
And,
yes.
so I think they're worried about meeting someone who's not that way.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, I think generally, in terms of looking for dating photographers, that's quite interesting as well, because men are very solution focused. So
Yeah.
like, I need to date, I need photos, I need a profile, I want to make it efficient and, you know, time efficient and whatever. So they'll immediately pay for someone to help them with all those things. And a woman might try dating first, and when they are not having success, then they might seek help.
Yes.
But I think women have a lot more friends that they can ask. So I know for sure that when I used to look nice, I'd be like, oh, take a picture of me, I'll use it for my online dating. And I think men are quite a lot more insular. Maybe they don't share it with their friends as much. Whereas all my women friends, when I was on Tinder, they were like, oh, let me have a look. And so it was a much more shared experience as a woman, and maybe not so much as a man.
That's interesting. So actually, the online dating world can be a bit more lonely for a man
I think
than
so,
for a
yeah.
woman, potentially. Yeah. Okay.
And I
And
think,
you know what? The thing,
go
I
on.
have a confession to make.
Oh,
So
go on.
the makeup thing you mentioned made me think. I at the end of this interview, I'm going to ask you what's your guilty pleasure. But my guilty confession is I have a thing for watching Love Island.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really enjoy it, but they wear so much makeup,
Yeah.
and that if you're looking at that as an example of life, which you shouldn't really, you would think, oh, actually, wearing all that contouring type of makeup is the thing to do as a woman. But from what you say, that men want, especially maybe if you're looking at over 40 potentially, they are not attracted to that. That's interesting.
I think it's again about the authenticity. Like, you know, you are, I think attraction is an interesting thing. I don't know whether this is true, but definitely in my 20s, I probably would have been more attracted by who was good looking and who wasn't. But as
Yeah.
I got older, it was so much more than that. And
Character is so much more important.
yeah, and you just want to know
Yeah.
that someone is nice looking enough, you know, for you, because someone who's nice looking for me, who I'm attracted to, won't be the same as for everybody, right? It's all subjective looks. But I think the thing with makeup and stuff like that is that if it's very over the top, I think maybe people don't feel that it's authentic. And it may be
Yes.
authentic for you, but I think it can be a bit of a block. Yes, for sure.
I think it's really interesting, and I have nothing against what you're saying.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not very good at putting lots of makeup on, so
No,
actually,
me.
I prefer not to have to wear lots of makeup. That's interesting. Now, you kind of have talked about this anyway, but what about if someone is consistently attracting people afraid of commitment?
Yeah.
And if someone's maybe a bit disillusioned with the dating world, online dating, because it never seems to go well, and all he or she gets are people who go for a few dates and then are non-committal. What words of wisdom would you have for that person?
I mean, I think don't be demoralized if you can help it, because online dating can really work. It's really one place where you know the majority of people are single. So it's a great way to meet single people. I would suggest that you look at yourself first. If it's consistently that you're attracting someone who's afraid of commitment, then look at what you're putting out there and look at what you're asking for in your profile, because that might be something that's getting in the way. And you may not even see it for yourself. Like, I mean, I had a story going on for myself, which was that I didn't need anybody. So as soon as somebody became a bit needy, or I felt like I needed them, I'd find a reason to not be with them. And it was only I had cancer in 2016, and
sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Yeah, but I needed lots of people. I was really vulnerable, and loads of people in my life helped me, and I needed people in my life. And suddenly I was like, oh, this is a new experience, that actually it's okay. It's not about needing people. It's just people choosing to do stuff for you or whatever. And I realized I'd never been vulnerable in that way. And I realized with dating, I was always finding people who were transient, as in I was dating people who lived in Spain and they were in the UK for 3 months, or so they weren't staying around. And then I was like, how have I met another one that's just not staying around? But I was actively choosing that, because it was difficult for me to be vulnerable with people and having them in my life. So that really showed me. So actually there can be a blockage going on that you may not even realise, which keeps leading you to attract certain people.
That's very interesting. And especially if it's a repeating pattern.
Yes.
Then it has to be something that is in the common factor. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, online dating is I once worked with a woman who was a nurse, and her profile picture was her in a uniform, and in her profile she'd written that she was looking for fun times and just nothing too heavy and stuff like that. And in her profile she didn't mention her family. She had a daughter, she was a single mum, and she didn't mention why she did nursing and her feelings around it. She just sort of kept it quite like light and fun. And she kept meeting these guys and having one-night stands. And I worked with her. We changed her. Well, she actually kept the same profile picture, but we changed her profile, wrote about how she's a single mum. She loves looking after her daughter, got a great relationship with her, and how nursing is her passion, because she loves helping people. And then she wrote to me about 2 months later, and she said, you never guess what? About a week after we wrote your profile, I met this guy, and we're still together now, and it's brilliant. And that wasn't her experience before she changed her profile. And it wasn't that her profile was wrong. It was just she wasn't really asking for what she wanted.
Yes, and showing a really true representation of herself. It's sometimes, I guess she was thinking, this is something I have to hide. But saying about that she had a daughter and single mum and how she had a great relationship actually was a positive thing that she put on there, and it probably attracted someone.
Yeah. And it would have put off all those people that were just not into a single mum, which is fine. Good riddance. Let's find the ones that really are.
Absolutely.
So that made a big difference.
Oh, I love it. Well, that was a really good success story. Before I go on to another question, are there any other interesting, juicy success stories that you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I mean, there's some really lovely success stories. Like one of my early women clients she was quite high up in a really big company, but she was very go-getty. She was very focused, very driven, and she kept meeting men that were a bit wishy-washy, and she was like, I just don't understand. So she was working with a dating coach, and then she worked with me, and we actually kind of softened her down a little bit, and made her a little bit more vulnerable in her pictures and in her profile. And then again, she got in touch and said to me, guess what? I've met someone, we're together, anyway. And then she got in touch with me about a year later and said, we've moved to Australia together. So people do get back in touch. I also photographed a wedding of someone I forgot, did his dating pictures. He met someone soon after. And then I photographed his first child.
What?
So that was a really beautiful longevity.
That's amazing.
Somebody else brought his dad to his dating shoot because his dad had a shoot with me 6 years before, and I hadn't heard from him since then. But his dad turned up with his girlfriend, who he'd met about 3 weeks after his dating shoot. And he was so happy about that when his son booked me for dating, he wanted to come along and say thanks. So,
oh, bless.
I mean, they're really lovely stories, aren't they? I'm just like...
It must be so nice for you, just like as a job, to see that. And you're contributing to people meeting the person they love. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And having fun doing it, because it is relentless when it's not working. Mm-hmm. So to make it easy and fun, and that you meet people very soon after you've had your photos done, that is like, I mean, that's quite a big thing, isn't it? Because ideally people want to get on the dating apps, not spend too much time dating, and meet someone that it lasts with.
Yeah, because you can waste a lot of time.
Well, yeah, exactly.
If you go on go out for dinner, so many times a month, you're wasting money and time. So,
yeah, I mean, it's an investment, isn't it? But you want your investment to be well placed. You don't want to be doing it endlessly for 8 months or however long.
Yes. Cool. Oh, no, I love that. Well done. I'm curious, is there anything about the online dating world that is a pet peeve of yours?
Yes. Well, more about what people think about it, because I really hate it when people say, but online dating apps, they're so superficial. I just hate that they're so shallow. Because the reason I think that is we're all superficial, right? Like, what happened in the old days before online dating is, as I said, you'd walk into a pub. I mean, obviously, this is where I met most of my boyfriends, is in the pub, because that's my example. But you'd walk in and you'd think, oh, hello, he looks nice over there. So immediately you're going on your looks without even knowing someone. So we're humans are such visual creatures that online dating feels weird because you're swiping through loads of pictures to see who you like, but it doesn't necessarily make it superficial.
Yeah, because actually in the pub you would have swiped through people with your eyes at the same rate, or depending on how many people were in the pub. Yes.
Yeah. So you'd have been dismissing people and choosing people based on what they looked like anyway. And then you'd chat to them, and then you'd base it around whether your conversation was good, whether you wanted to go on a date or not. So, I mean, it's pretty much the same process, except for it's very condensed because there's hundreds of people online. So
yes, but then if you get your descriptions right, the people you match with would be fewer, and then that would maybe take away some of that noise.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to swipe through so many, because it's a bit more, okay, you've only got the people who are interested in, for example, not having children or having them or whatever.
Yeah. And, the ones who love doing jigsaws, keep bringing that up. But
jigsaws, it's true. It's a good one.
I had this client once that was like, I really love doing jigsaws, but I don't want to put it on dating because it's really going to put people off. And I said to him, well, you know what? Why don't you try it? You can take it off your profile, but you may also find women that like doing jigsaws in their spare time too. And actually, how cool. It's better to date 5 people who really love, you can see yourself with, than to date 500 who it's never going to go anywhere.
Absolutely. And I'm sure there's plenty of women who like jigsaws. I love a jigsaw.
Oh dear, I hate jigsaws.
Oh really? Oh.
But my husband loves them, you see.
Brilliant. Let's see. So I'm curious about you personally, if you don't mind sharing. So earlier on, I shared one of my guilty pleasures. So our listeners can get to know you a bit. What's one of your guilty pleasures?
Well, actually, it's to do with dating, because I am like you. I really love reality dating shows.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. But I mean, my first foray into it was, I loved a program called Millionaire Matchmaker. Have you ever seen it?
No.
So it was probably, it's probably quite old now, like maybe 15 years ago, whatever. And it's a woman called Patty Stranger, who is American. She used to work with millionaires, and basically these were people with loads of money but just couldn't find love. And so she'd look at what they were wearing, how they were presenting themselves, how they were acting on a first date, and then she would give them guidance, and she was kind of like, so she was really great at being sassy about what they were looking for, and they, told them quite straight that, if you do this and if you do this, you're not giving anyone a chance. So I remember particularly a guy who only wanted to date very beautiful blonde women, and he was Jewish, I think, and so there were very beautiful blonde women, but he was finding that personalities weren't aligned always. So she was saying, there are all these other women, and give them a chance. If you are totally honing it down to that one thing,
yes,
that is superficial.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so you are a fan of the online dating show. I love
online dating shows. The psychology of them is interesting.
Same.
Right?
You see, I'm currently on maternity leave, and so I do have a bit more time on my hands during the day, holding a baby and watching daytime television. But even though something like Love Island, it can seem superficial, and yes, they've all got fake boobs and too much makeup on, but it is essentially about love and about people, how their communication styles, how honest are they, how they match, and it is, I love the psychology behind it, and I just love seeing love. So
yeah, I mean, we're all rooting for it, really, aren't we? We kind of want it to work out for people, but it's also really fascinating watching the messy side of it, because humans are messy, and we're all just trying our best. Like, I think dating's interesting because we don't want to give too much away whilst having to be really vulnerable, and I think that's what shows up in reality TV, and you're sort of watching it play out. But we're all like it when we're dating.
Yes.
We're all like, I can't tell them too much because I don't know, I need to rein some things in, but then I also need to be out there because otherwise they're not knowing me.
And what do you think? Do you think it's better to be more vulnerable than holding a little bit back?
Yeah, I think so. I think it takes a lot of bravery to be vulnerable, and I think it takes a lot to know where you're not being vulnerable. But I think the more grounded you are in yourself, and then being vulnerable is maybe more natural because you're grounded in yourself. So whatever you share, you don't then afterwards hopefully think, oh God, I'm such an idiot. Why did I tell him that? Because now look. So
yes, it doesn't feel threatening. If you're grounded, you feel like I can share and I'm not threatened by giving away that side of me. Perhaps.
Yeah, and I think being vulnerable also is also knowing, I don't think it's not sharing, but I think it's how you share something, because when you're on a first date with somebody, it should be fairly light, but we all have things going on, we all have baggage, but I think people are also quite scared of people with baggage, which we all have. So I think it's about being vulnerable, but also, I can't think of probably the right word to do it, but coming from a space of knowing you've got it covered for yourself. So if you've been divorced and you turn up on a date and you're still very sad from being divorced and you're still reeling from some of that, and you haven't sorted that out for yourself, then being vulnerable about that is lovely, but it's also maybe quite a big thing for somebody else.
Yeah, that probably would push someone away because they think, oh, they're not ready for a new situation.
Yeah.
Okay, so work on yourself first, make sure you are in a good place, but then be brave with some vulnerability.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, would you mind just telling our listeners how they can find out a bit more about you, and maybe just quickly, you've mentioned what you do already, but just quickly say the services that you could help people with.
Yeah, sure. What I need to tell you before I forget to tell you anything else is that I am collaborating with an amazing woman called Vanessa White. She's a relationship coach. And we haven't got a date set yet, but we're going to run a workshop together where we work with people on those foundational things like boundaries and asking for what you want. And also we'll do some photos with people and help them with their profile. So when they leave at the end of the workshop, they'll be ready to launch themselves on online dating. So that's coming up. So if people want to follow me on Instagram, which is My Heart Skipped, or my website is myheartskip.co.uk. So my business is My Heart Skipped Photography, if you Google that. We should be putting something out about that.
Exciting. Do you know the date? Do you know the date?
No, we haven't got a date yet.
Okay.
It will be in the next few months. We were due to do April, and then a close friend of mine passed away, sadly. So we've just delayed it for a little bit. Whilst, thank you. So it'll probably be looking at May, early June, sometime like that now.
Okay, that works out well. When this episode goes live, I will double check with you, and then I'll put all those details in the show notes.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, that would be great.
Wonderful. That sounds amazing. I know Vanessa, actually.
Oh, do you?
She is also going to be a guest on the podcast in a few months' time. So wonderful.
Yeah, she'll
super.
Be great.
I really look forward to hearing more about that project. But for now, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I think you asked me what services I do, so I should just tell you that very quickly.
Absolutely.
So fundamentally, I do dating photos, dating portrait shoots for people, but I also help people write their profile, and I also help people if people have a profile already and they just want to look at some tweaks that they can make to make it more successful. I also sort of give consultation on that.
Perfect. Oh, that's all so useful. And I just loved hearing all the success stories. If anyone's listening to this and they're single and they find online dating difficult, I mean, they've just got to go to you. Seriously.
Well, I'd love to work with them because I hate thinking that people are struggling with it.
Yeah. I love love and I want everyone to find love. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, then. Well, thank you so much, Lucy. It's been amazing. I really appreciate your time. And I'm sure I'll hear more from you in the next few months.
Oh, thanks, Yolanda. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
So there you have it. That was Lucy Williams on online dating. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. And if you know any single people out there, send this to them because it might just be the thing they need to hear to help them get back on that horse, get back on the dating apps, just in case they gave up. Because I know plenty of people who have given up because it can be difficult. So it doesn't need to be with the right advice and the right pictures and the right bio. Wonderful. Now, before you go, I would love it if you gave me a little rating and review. That will really, really help the podcast to reach more people who might enjoy listening. So, that said, without further ado, thank you for listening. And here's to another week. Bye.